How do you do, fellow tricksters? This is the final guide for my Trickster Exsanguinate build. As always, the POB can be found in the description below, and in that POB there is multiple trees for leveling and different in-game setups along with item setups. Let's start with how the build feels. In my current setup, which is with one cold iron point and a shield, I have no issues clearing rare T16 maps. But the single target is definitely a little lacking. Because of this, I'd recommend swapping out your chain support for Swift Affliction during big boss fights for more single target DPS. And before making the switch to the low life setup, you should get a Shaper Shield with the Recover Life on Block mod. Before I got this shield, my character felt really squishy on low life. You obviously don't have to worry about this if you choose to use 2 cold iron points though, which we'll talk more about in a second. In the previous video I talk about using a chest with the additional curse mod and using a Witchfire flask for the extra despair curse. I think the build is better off using a Warlord chest with the +1 to level of socketed support gems. This way you get more consistent damage in and out of boss fights, and it also doesn't require you to be right next to the enemy to take advantage of it. Now onto the dual wield setup. In the POB I have included 2 different trees for setups that use 2 cold iron points. One of these trees uses most of the same gear as the shield setup, but doesn't use a soul tether belt. This is because you will not have max block and will instead be investing in dodge, which lowers your overall energy shield. This tree also grabs the Wind Dancer keystone and utilizes cluster jewels for more damage and health. The other dual wielding tree and gear setup is essentially the same but uses the perfect form chest piece instead. This chest piece was brought to my attention by a viewer during one of my streams, and I think it is a great item to incorporate into this build. If I were to make the switch to a dual wield setup, I would be using the perfect form myself. You get more life this way, and getting Arctic armor for free is huge. Add in Wind Dancer and a Jade Flask and you got a pretty solid defense. But just a disclaimer, I haven't tried this setup yet, so I can't tell you how good or bad it feels. I can tell you, however, that the DPS is decently higher. I'd also suggest playing around with some of the Ascendancy nodes. It might be worth grabbing Swift Killer, which is a significant damage boost with the added Frenzy charges, and giving up Escape Artist if you're okay with losing some extra defense. Now let's talk a little bit about leveling. As I've mentioned in a previous video, leveling with Caustic Arrow and Toxic Rain is great until you can get access to the Chain and Unleash supports at the end of Act 4. In my opinion, Exsanguinate feels pretty awful until you get these supports. If you are more comfortable with the ED Contagion playstyle, then you could definitely level that way if you want. Again, there are leveling trees for both the shield and dual wield setups in the POB to help you throughout the leveling process. And that sums it up, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below or stop by my Twitch stream and I'll try my best to answer them for you there. If you liked this video or found it helpful, let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe for more gaming related content.